Girl, what you do? The new Diamondback Db9 Gen 4. Yes! Let's jump right in, guys. First and foremost, you'll notice two things right up front. Orange follower, and it locked back. Diamondback listened to everything that you guys had to say. If you remember this little guy, the green monster, you might remember that there were a lot of people that came in out of the woodwork and said, well, they said three things really. They said the trigger sucks, it's crap, it's garbage. They had all kinds of great ways to describe on why the trigger in a $200 or $250 gun was just absolutely terrible. They could have made one better. Number two, they said that it was absolutely ridiculous that it didn't shoot plus P. Then they complained and had the audacity to complain about how it blew up if they shot plus P. Last but not least, they said that the fact that it didn't have a slide release or a slide stop, depending on who you have that conversation with, that was ludicrous too. Well, you'll notice one of three things right up front, okay? That was the first thing you noticed. The second thing you might notice, which is a little bit less incognito here, is the fact that that trigger, whilst it looks identical on the outside to that, well, let's just go ahead and be honest. There's zero tension on there. And once you get to that nice wall right there, a little bit of a press, guess what? She gone. Check this out, YouTube. Watch the reset on this bad boy. That's it. That is it. That is all you need to get to reset on the new DB9. Right there. It is very, very short. Let's go ahead and check that in perspective compared to the earlier model, not the Gen 4. Going. Woo-hoo! And look at the trigger pull. That is all under tension. All that right there is different. Okay guys, so we're going to dive right in on what's changed on the inside of the Diamondback DB9. The Gen 4 model, in case you haven't seen it yet, the Gen 4 model has had a few revisions. Number one, the trigger. Okay? We're going to talk about that real fast. If you look at these two firearms, if I pull back on the trigger, you'll notice one thing real fast. One of the actual trigger bars back here, this guy, if you pay attention to these two, when I line these up the exact same and I start pulling back on them, you'll notice one of them, the Gen 4, is not moving right away. They changed the angle at which it actually pulls back on that striker. Okay, so what happens is, while you had this wall and it was basically grabbing that striker from all the way back here and doing this and doing that and then let it fly, on the new Gen 4, they revised that. So now the trigger's a lot shorter, it's got a lot more crispness to it, and you can actually game the trigger. You can actually get on target, pull the trigger back, and if you look, when you first start pulling that trigger back, that much movement right there, there's nothing. You start pulling the trigger back, you get to that wall right about here. And then from here, boom, she breaks. You get to that wall, boom, she breaks. See if you can see that real quick. You get to that wall, boom, she breaks. If you look at the predecessors, the Gen 3s and earlier, as soon as you started pulling that trigger, you started getting that trigger spring action. So as you're pulling back on it, it was gritty. It was kind of hard to really gauge where you're at. A good revolver shooter had a good fight going on, but they were still good at it. Someone like me who's worked with mostly semi-automatics, it's a little bit difficult. Next thing, if you look at inside of them, okay, what I've noticed, and it could just be a little bit of a slight difference, but what I've noticed is immediately on the top of this trigger bar, there's a little bit of a difference. There's a little bit more meat on the Gen 4's trigger bar. Last but not least, if you actually look up front here, this is part of what I believe is the enforcements that they made, or the reinforcements they made, to be able to shoot plus P. If you look at the two frames, you'll see inside here, you've got that reinforced steel, or those inserts right there. You don't have those on the earlier Gen 4. That is just the polymer frame. But if you get to this one, you've got the reinforcements right there. Last but not least, the only other thing I really noticed internally that was different is if you look on the predecessor, the Gen 3, on that trigger bar you had a little bit of the Swiss cheesing right there, that little bit of that cut away. Or the little holes cut out like the old hot rods like we talked about in that predecessor video. This one here in the Gen 4, you don't have that. You got a little bit thicker trigger bar. Now as far as the slides go, there's really not a big difference. But something that I wanted to mark with you guys, and something I wanted to talk about is, I talked to Diamondback extensively about this, and I really wanted to be able to set the record straight for you guys. The new Gen 4 Diamondbacks, the DB9s, the black one like I've got right here, they're probably going to do different finishes. You're going to see a little bit of a distinction on the way that the engraving is done on the frame compared to the predecessors. You'll notice that there's a little bit of a different mark here. This is more cut into the frame. This is almost a laser cut. What I've noticed immediately is if you look, there's 2 dots right there. Let's see if we can zoom in on that guy. There are 2 dots right there on the barrel, underneath the hood of the barrel, okay? Or the feed ramp. If you look on this one, there's a 1. Now when I spoke to Diamondback, I said, hey guys, is there any kind of distinction that you guys are doing? They assured me, they said they're so proud of the fact that it'll shoot plus P that they're going to actually put plus B on the barrel here. I don't know any other manufacturers that will literally stamp the gun plus P rated. There are some that will let you know you can shoot plus P. Diamondback is so motivated to win your business over that they're actually going to put plus P right on the barrel. Now that doesn't go for plus P plus, and it doesn't go for hand loads and any of the other crap that you guys may or may not run through your gun. You have to understand something, guys. Diamondback is guaranteeing that if you use factory plus P ammunition, this will run. Now I know all the bad guys out there that are going to say the Diamondbacks are crap, or the ones that don't like them or bash them for whatever reason, they're going to say it's ridiculous. There is not a firearms company on the market that I know of that will actually warranty firearms that are used plus P plus or used with warranted reloads, non-SAMI ammo, and things of that nature. What they're basically saying is, if you use good ammo, even if it's plus P, we'll guarantee this firearm, which is awesome. They added the slide stop to the firearm. So they've added the plus P, they've added the trigger stop, or excuse me, the trigger, and now they've added the slide stop, okay? So all 3 of the major things that you guys had an issue with the Diamondbacks, guess what? Completely addressed. The thing I like the most is the trigger, but the slide stop, they didn't stop there, guys. The slide stop is very well machined. If you look at the slide stop, it's got a nice character to it. It's got nice definition to it. The slide stop is actually very well machined. It's got a nice feel, very tactile, and you can get to it. Now, do I think it's machined far enough out that in a pinch, or if I'm actually getting really, really sweaty or getting that, fight or flight, my adrenaline's kicking, my hands and palms are starting to get sweaty, do I think that it's really positive enough for that? I personally don't. I'd still like to see you grab the slide and roll with it, but that's something that's a little bit different, guys. Something else I've noticed, which is not something that they really publicized, if you look at the texture and the shape of the frame, you've got a different texture by far on the predecessors. On this one, you've got a really, really refreshing texture finish. Now, it's not super aggressive. Me personally, I'd like it to be a little more aggressive, but I'm here to tell you it's still a snappy 9mm. You'll see that the gun doesn't jump out of your hands. As a matter of fact, its felt recoil is a little bit more brash to me, or a little bit harder hitting, but it actually, if you watch, I don't think it recoils as far up and down or left and right as other firearms. It does hit hard because of the nature of the grip, but the one really cool thing that Diamondback is still doing is they have this beaver tail here in the back. So when I grab my grip high on that firearm, it doesn't let me get it high enough. Even if I really, really overdo it, it doesn't let me get high enough that I'm getting slide by when I shoot this thing. Now that I've got this Sig Sauer P938 in my hand, we're going to address a couple things real fast, guys. This is a $700 gun. This is a $700 gun. This is a $700 gun. The part that you guys don't realize, or some of you didn't realize, when I did my video about Diamondback being the best subcompact Glock-like firearm ever made, this gun isn't even $300 with upgrades. This gun is $700 without upgrades, with one magazine, maybe two. This gun, I could buy 3 of these damn near for the price of one Sig 938. Now you'll see the footage that I put in this video of me shooting this firearm, and you'll see me do side-by-side tests with a 938. I'd probably go with the gun I can buy 3 of versus a gun I can buy 1 of. But in reality, I own one of these. Why? Well, I like the trigger a little bit better in the 938. I like the fact that it has an external safety, even though there's technically more safeties in this. And I like the fact, last but not least, but it has a threaded barrel. That's it. It's main reasons why I bought it. I also like guns. So now that I've shown you that I actually am credible in regards to the 938, let's talk about the fact that some people said that, well, he probably likes a Diamondback because he likes cheap things. No, I like the fact that the Diamondback is inexpensive and runs flawless. I had 1 fail to feed in over 500 rounds now. You might hear me in this video because there's different footage. I've actually shot this thing 3 different times now in the midst of doing this footage, in the act of doing this footage. I've actually enjoyed shooting this guy. And I've put more rounds through this than I've actually put through the 938. And I had issues with the 938. I had issues qualifying with the 938. So my thing is this. Let's touch on the fact that it's a $250 gun, MSRP $269, somewhere right in that ballpark. Does owning a Costa comp, carry comp, what is it? What are these, 3,000, 4,000, somewhere there? Does that make me qualified now to be a guy who says that this is a good value at 260 bucks? No? Okay. Okay. What about a Zev 17? Trijicon armor, a whole bunch of cool stuff. A bunch of stuff you don't need, but they're cool, light, you know, that's cool, right? Does that qualify me to be able to speak on a good value on a firearm? No? Okay. How about an LWRC with an ACOG? Is that cool? These are all mine. Not that I'm braggadocious, but I'm just trying to get that point really, really deep into you guys, okay? Every one of these is a tool. Every one of these is a firearm, but every one of them is a tool. If I can spend $250 on something that's going to save my life, I don't see a reason why not to do that. If I can spend $250 on a firearm that's going to save my life and they've improved it and made it better, I don't see a reason not to do that. Now, pull no punches, Diamondback actually was cool enough to send me this because they saw my review and apparently I popped up on the radar. So big shout out to Diamondback. But one of the other things that Diamondback said when they sent me this firearm was, we'd really, really, really like you to promote something and push something forward for us. When Diamondback sent this to me, they also made mention of all the companies that Diamondback went after and sought out. And they said, hey, Rob, is there any way you can bring this up and talk about it? And I said, absolutely, I would love to. Diamondback got in touch with 6 companies. I'm going to pop them up right now on the screen. All 6 of these companies, Diamondback went out of their way, got in touch with and said, hey, I really want you guys to be able to go out, hit the ground running, find holsters, find options, find accessories for your firearm, because they're that passionate about the DB9. They really want people to be carrying these. They love what they do. They make everything and source everything here in the United States, and they make a good product, okay? For them to go out of their way to ensure that you guys have options is a perfect example of why I actually like the Diamondback product. Here's a $4,000, $3,000 gun. And one of my biggest grievances is the fact that I don't have a holster for this. I have to send this thing off to some company. I'm not sending this off to them, but I have to send this off to some company to have them custom mold me a gun. Why? Because STI, for whatever reason, didn't do what Diamondback did with a $250 gun. STI, for whatever reason, didn't think with all this crap on the gun that you would need to have it. And maybe, I don't mean to bash STI, maybe they did and companies just didn't go ahead and do it. But the fact that Diamondback went out of their way to make sure that you have options for holsters. You've got all the options I just listed, and I'm sure there's more. We got all those options as far as what you can get for this DB9, okay? Now, we're going to digress. Why should you buy it? Nothing has changed. It's got a better trigger than before, even more reason to buy it, but nothing's changed. It's got a slide stop on it, or a slide release. Even more reason to buy it, but nothing's changed. It'll shoot plus P. To me, let's jump on that real fast. I don't think that you're ever burning enough powder in a 2.5 inch, 2 inch barrel, 3 inch barrel, 4 inch barrel to really justify or warrant shooting plus P ammunition. I think at that point you're basically trying to get a bigger fireball. I could be wrong. If you know this better than I do, go ahead and post in the comments below. But I don't think that it actually warrants, considering the velocity of 9mm, I don't think it really warrants shooting plus P ammunition out of here. But we'll go ahead and say I agree to disagree on that. Why should you buy it? For $260, $250, $200, whatever you can find these on special for, you get a 9mm, the lightest, smallest, most compact one. Oh, and I know what you're going to say. Well, no, it's not. Well, it's smaller than my 238, or my 938. Okay, it's a little bit shorter. Okay, it's about the same size grip. Grip's a little bit longer. Okay, but nobody in this price range has trumped it. Nobody's come close, even in the $350, $400 price range, to trumping it. The SIG 365, great gun, little boxy, feels like crap. Nothing in this price range comes close. Not only is nothing coming close, but Diamondback went out of their way to say, we're going to make a firearm that is 9mm, the smallest, lightest, most compact 9mm that you can shoot and that you can use. So what did people do? After they did that for 2 or 3 generations, people found everything they can critique on it. And instead of sitting idly by, Diamondback went ahead and made it even better with the Gen 4. If you, for any reason, want a firearm to carry, to use, to keep, to put in your truck, to keep on your nightstand, to keep in a backpack, to keep in your toolbox, where you don't want to have a $4,000, $3,000 gun, where you don't want to have $2,500, $3,000, whatever, tied up in some fancy schmancy pants Glock, where you're kind of nervous to keep a $700 SIG 938, guess what, guys? It runs. I promise you, I've put boxes and boxes and boxes of ammo through this. I've had other people shoot it. The first thing that everybody said when they felt this was, wow, the trigger feels good. The trigger feels that much better in this, guys. People that bash me every day. I go in the gun store with this all the time, and I literally get ripped all the time. But you know what? Enough people, when they started thinking that every now and again, it's kind of like that girl that nobody really wants to show off, but they end up hanging out with. Everyone's kind of done the, hey man, why are you carrying that if you've got this? Or why are you carrying that if you got one of those? Dude, they're comfortable. They're compact. They're small. They can get lost on my person. I know they're there, but you might not. If I could turn around and take one of these holsters and make this thing fit in boxers or in briefs or whatever, and I walk and answer the door when the mailman comes, I'm cool with that. It's kind of hard to conceal carry a rifle, right? It's kind of hard to conceal carry that. Guys, it's simple. Diamondback went out of their way and made this thing even better. It was awesome before, but you would have to be absolutely crazy not to go out. Matter of fact, you owe it to yourself to go out and try the trigger in this thing. Nothing has changed. It's still a very small 9mm. You are still controlling an explosion in a small package. And when it goes off, you'll see. I don't want to hear from anybody that you can't control this thing. I'm going to show you footage right now of this thing when I let it go in the path of least resistance. I use my left hand, I use my right hand, I use all kinds of hands. This thing does not jump out of my hand. Now, I'm not saying if you're an 80-pound girl or an 80-pound guy, you've never shot a gun, this is going to be the most comfortable thing you've shot or the most comfortable thing you ever shoot. But if you get a good purchase on this firearm, if you've ever shot a firearm and you kind of get used to it, it's awesome. It's not something you're going to take to the range. It's not something you're going to show off and brag to your friends about, but it's something that will save your life. And you'll have it on your person, which is different. It's very different having something like this. I always have a firearm on me. There's no excuse. If this was the only firearm I had, I might not carry it every day. And the reality is the best one is the one you got. And for $250, $260, even cheaper than that, you'd be crazy not to put one of these in your stable. Well, one time I fell on a bike when I was trying to learn how to ride a bike. So I just know that bikes are evil. So I just don't get on them. Watch where it ejects. Let's see if you can see it on camera. It still ejects the shit out of it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Oh, thanks. Because normally I like that really far forward, but as snappy as this is, I can't leave any real estate back here. You know what I'm saying? I kind of have to be back behind it. I like being a little more torqued, but I think being here. Guys, so where are we at, okay? How do we close this video? Here's how we close it. I want you to think of a couple things, 3 for mentioning here. 1, Diamondback listened to everything you had to say. 2, Diamondback changed everything that you guys had a problem with. And 3, Diamondback is still 100% sourcing and making these parts for this firearm in the United States of America, in Cocoa, Florida. That to me speaks volumes. Not that a company turned around and tried to be, into that whole capitalism thing and make money, but a company was so cool that they went, you know what? Yeah, this thing works great. Let's change every single one of the things that our customers say is an issue, or are people that are pretty much haters, okay? Because most of the people that responded to that video that I was in earlier, the one on my green Diamondback Db9, this little popular guy, most of you guys, you were on board. You just had a few things that perhaps weren't 100% to your liking. For a company to come out and just absolutely reinvent the wheel, not of firearms, guys, but of that firearm. They changed three things, three major designs, okay? They changed their trigger, they changed the fact that it wasn't plus P rated, and they added a slide release or a slide stop depending on who you ask. That's a lot of change between one generation to another. And in such a short period of time, that's a big change. They also changed the grip on it, which we've talked about in this video. But they kept all the really, really good stuff. You've got these firearms manufacturers that really don't care what you have to say. Diamondback, with a firearm in the $250 price range or below, okay? Diamondback went out of their way to make this thing work for you, to listen to what everybody who had something negative to say. They changed it. They're wanting to earn your business, guys, okay? I get nothing from whether you like this firearm or not. Diamondback sent me this firearm to review, okay? But let me go ahead and tell you, they earned my money long before that. They got that money for the DB9. I did a review on the DB9, and Diamondback was happy with the fact that I was very subjective about it. I said what I didn't like about it, and I said what I do like about it. Where do I stand on this one compared to the other one? I think that if Glock would have made a firearm like this, Glock would have been absolutely killing the market. This thing is smaller, it's lighter, it's a little snappier, but I actually like this trigger better than the trigger that I've had in most Glocks. I know that sounds crazy, try it. It is a very, very short reset, guys. The reset in this is actually shorter than any of my Glocks that I have that have ZEV triggers, that have agency triggers. It's not as light, but I'm okay with it. It's a smaller firearm. It's something I'm gonna tuck in a small holster. It's not light enough that if I just get to it, it's gonna go off, but I'm here to tell you guys, there's nothing in that take-up. This new trigger is awesome. This gun, I can't stress it enough. As excited as I was about the previous generation, I'm even more excited about this one. This thing, you owe it to yourself to go and try one out. If you're one of those guys that was on YouTube and had something to say about the other generations, if you're one of those guys that just thinks that the earth is flat still, and that since a Diamondback failed before, or since a Diamondback didn't feel good before, after all these revisions, they're still junk, I got nothing for you. I can't make you try one. I can't make you go out and buy one. But here's what I'm going to challenge you with. If you go out and you try one of those new Diamondbacks and you see what they're about, I really hope that you have the balls to get on camera or to go on one of my reviews on the Diamondbacks and say, guys, you know what? I didn't like the Gen 1, I thought it was crap. I didn't like the Gen 2, I thought it was crap. I didn't like the Gen 3, I thought it was crap. You know what? I like the Gen 4. Because that would really say a lot. It would say a lot because most people would rather perpetuate that cycle of negativity than actually have the balls to come out and say, you know what, I made a mistake. But people love to hate that. Okay, you can tell a story and it could be a really warm-hearted story. It might go to like 1 or 2 or 5 people. But when people hear something negative or people hear like something bad happened, it catches like wildfire. This thing right here, I really genuinely hope that it catches like wildfire because Diamondback went out of their way and they made something awesome. So for you guys that don't like it, I hope that you keep your comments within reason. You probably won't because I don't know, you just really like hating this company for some reason. But I'm here to tell you, for you guys that are on the fence about it, for you guys that were on the fence after seeing my last post, for any of you that went out and were like, oh man, you know, I kind of don't want one. I know it sounds cool, but yeah, these guys are right. It doesn't have a slide stop. It doesn't have an updated trigger. It doesn't shoot plus P ammo. Guys, it's done. Go out, try it, shoot it, fall in love with it, carry it, because I put 250 plus rounds through it. Right now, I'm probably in the neighborhood of 500 to 700 rounds in this guy. I haven't been keeping count because the green monster, it's been working flawless. I ain't worried about it anymore. What can I tell you about it? I'm telling you it had a failure to feed. That's it. That's all I've got. It's the only thing I can say remotely negative about this firearm because they kept everything I liked 100% the same. And the few things that didn't bother me, but it bothered a lot of people, they made even better. How do you complain? How do you find the negative? Oh, well, it's not a Glock. Well, guess what? It's $300 cheaper. oh, it's not a SIG P938. You'd have to spend another $500, $600. Guys, can't stress it enough. Try it before you buy it. Or just buy it, because you just might like it or love it.